Walk, walk. There are so many things going on around. You must take heed. It's been written and prophesied about, so you must believe. Not everything that glitters is gold. Pay attention as it's been told. Join us every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, with Brother Yusuf as he tackles and breaks down current events, current news, and politics, and the Islamic Ummah. Please join us, streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnah followers.
And last week, one of the questions was about South Africa and the relationship to the Muslims. So I want to kind of open up with that. Then we'll get on to this week's questions. I did, of course, collect some facts just to shed light on exactly why I have the viewpoint that I did. And everything that I say, always, as I say, is verifiable, well researched, documented. So this week, as I was getting some data on this issue, I came across, and I mentioned last week when I said there was a lot of Arabs in particular who were making a lot of comments endorsing this place and holding it up in very high esteem. And we're going to see, today here with some very cold, hard facts, just how much this nation needs to be held up or needs to be lowered. But it was really disturbing what I'm seeing, like I said, particularly from the Arab community and the Arab news agencies. I mean, it's very disheartening, and we're going to break this down of why this is so important for dawah, efforts. Because as a Caucasian man myself, if I'm learning about Islam for the first time and I'm surfing the web and I'm seeing all of this stuff, the first thing I don't want no part of that religion. I don't want no part of these people. And is it by design? Possibly in some cases, but a lot of it shows there's a lot of deep-seated resentment, bitterness, and racism coming from that part of the world. So again, we see Arab news agencies, and what they were doing was what we would expect to see from the left in this country. The way they were just, deflecting and just, we're going to see examples as we move on here, exactly what I'm talking about. But it was just frightening, honestly, how they tried to rephrase arguments and try to attack straw men, if you will, to try to dodge this issue. And again, they wonder why there's a lot of low sympathy for Palestine in this part of the world. And there is. And a lot of the reason that when I talk to people of this culture, because I came from this culture, I speak the language, I know the customs, I know the viewpoints. What I find out all the time is that people say, well, those Muslims, they hate us, and it's because of stuff like this. So what this Arab news agency, multiple comments, by the way, also from social media influencers saying similar things. But what they tried to do is first just pretend it's not happening. And they claimed that the famous scene that they were showing from South Africa of the crosses was not representative of death counts. Well, it's a false claim because no one made that. Gravestones. Those crosses that were there for the victims of these murders, these racially motivated murders in a lot of cases, as we're going to see, they never were presented as gravestones. That's a lie. This is how, again, deceptive tactics like you'd see from the left. Those were memorials. They were not there for actual graves. They were murals to represent by showing a visual representation of the numbers. And this particular news agency went out there and said, oh, that's a lie. That's not true. Those are not graves. No one claimed they were graves. You don't have gravestones lined up on the side of the road. If anyone has ever seen this mural, it was nothing of the sort. It was just simply a representation of the many. They even went as far, and this was just pure disgusting, to claim that Julius Malima's famous song, Kill the Farmer, Kill the Boer, was a song of freedom and redemption. Well, what is Malina himself? When you want to talk about what the artist believes when he writes a song, or a novelist when he writes a book, or a screenplay writer or director when he makes a film, when you want to know what it's about, who do you ask? You ask the person that's participating in the event, who created it. Julius Malema himself famously said, we aren't calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now. What a great guy. I mean, just right there, at least not for now. We're not doing it yet. It's coming, but not quite yet. And this news agency, again, from the Arab world, is defending this guy as some kind of a freedom fighter when he's actually calling openly for the murder. He's not a low-level entertainer. This guy is not some comedian in a bar making a joke. He's basically working for the National Assembly, and he's calling for the murder of an entire people. Now let's look at Molina here right quick, and you'll start to connect the dots, as I always like to do here. What did Molina say? Because we know he don't like white people, obviously. What did he have to say about Jews? Well, this is very telltale, as you're going to see. He recently said, and I quote, "Anti-Semitism is prejudice and discrimination against Jews. Some of our biggest donors are Jews, and we love them." What a coincidence, huh? So you see the rhetoric. I talked about this a few months ago when I brought those quotes out here, and I talked about what the Zionists want. You see this guy saying exactly what the Zionists want. Then when asked, he said, "Oh, we love them. They're our donors." He knows who butters the bread. He knows who put him in there. He knows who's funding this. And again, you can clearly see this. So on Sunday, he was back in public singing the song again. So obviously Trump and all the media frenzy about this does not scare these people at all, because they know who's on their side. They know who's helping them out. And it's always been about this. It's clearly documented, the Zionist connection to that country. So we're going to see again. Now, these Arab groups that talk about all these things, about how beautiful it is to rebel against the oppressor and whatever, well, it's kind of a funny coincidence, isn't it? These are the same people that tell you should honor your ruler, even if they're an oppressor. So in this case, they're contradicting themselves, obviously, by stating that they should rebel and you should kill all the whites and the Boer, as they call them in the song, and the farmers, because they're your oppressors, they're your rulers. Even though that's not the case, as we can look at who really runs South Africa, who controls the resources, a lot of it's owned by Zionist hands, who's running the government certainly is not Caucasian people. So again, they're talking about overthrowing the rulers. In this context is good, as they're perceiving and painting the straw man that the white people are ruling South Africa, when that couldn't be farther from the truth. So again, the article would go on. Later, they claimed it's not a big deal, really. It's just not. First, it's not happening. And then, well, yeah, maybe, but it's just not that big of a deal. It's not that big, And again, this is so beyond dishonest and disgusting. It's just absolutely sickening. They chose one profession only to basically pretend that white people were not being targeted. So again, we're going to play their game. Let's look at the numbers. Well, the farm murders from 1990 to 2024 stood at 2,229. That's very low, obviously. 1,363 of those were white farmers. 529 were relatives. 38 workers were white, and 30 visitors. Opposed to 88 black farmers, 61 relatives of black farmers, and 108 black workers with 7 visitors. So again, when you want to look at these numbers, you obviously are saying, okay, well, there are some people on both sides targeted. Whites have more farms. That would balance out. Disproportionately, there are more white farm owners in South Africa, therefore there would be more killed. We're going to come back to this point and frame it to total crime here in a second. But the United States farm numbers are so low, there's not even stats. I tried to keep track of this, or try to dig up on different countries and what the farm, in fact, the number one killer of farmers when it comes to this sudden death in this country is actually suicide. So we're not even having any problem with farms at all. To be honest, no one's killing our farmers here. No one's killing the farmers in most of the world. So already you can establish there's a major crime issue in this country, a lack of law and order. So let's look at the individual number. The overall murder rate in South Africa is 36.4 for every 100,000. But when you look at the number of whites, it's actually 316.3 per 100K, 9 times higher than what you would find in the overall average. So what this is showing is that disproportionately a minority population is being targeted for murder. It is 9 times higher than the murder rate of the country, which means the murder on actually African people by African people in South Africa is extremely low in comparison to what's happening to these white farmers. South Africa's passed 142 laws that deal with active discrimination under the guise of equality. And again, genocide starts with language and actions. When I covered Palestine, I talked about the Zionist quotes that they were using to dehumanize the local Arab populations. I talked about those discrimination programs that were put in place to slowly take the land from the Arabs who had owned land there for centuries. It always begins with the rhetoric, then it begins with the laws, and then it ultimately ends as what we're seeing in Palestine now with ethnic cleansing. Now, are millions of whites in South Africa being lined up and shot? No. But the scene is set. The climate is there for mass murder. You have the programs, you have the scapegoat, you have the Jewish funded, as I showed earlier, his quote, people in government singing songs calling for murder. It's just a matter of time before we escalate that. Now, I'm not here to defend the apartheid system. It was absolutely disgusting. And the original foundations of this country are written in blood, or made in blood, you can say. So what was done hundreds of years ago obviously was unjust. And any Muslim, we're here to condemn that. But there are opportunities where you can close the economic gaps without discriminating against the people who already own land and not targeting them. You can create numerous government programs and incentives which provide aid, no interest loans. They don't like that, obviously, no riba, of course, to help African populations to grow their wealth and create that generational wealth and that land ownership, which could help them and liberate, them from poverty. These programs can be done in a right, ethical, and moral way. But that's, again, not what's being talked about. This is what basically the Zionists want, is absolute genocide and bloodshed. I even saw this famous Arab influencer goes by the name of Fareed, and what he was doing, again, typical tactics of the left, no surprise if you know who this guy is. What he was saying was, oh, the Palestinian crisis is so much worse. Don't even pay attention to this one. We need to focus over here, even though this Fareed supports the governments in the GCC, the Gulf cooperation countries, who are not lifting a finger to stop the genocide that is going on in Gaza, which we have covered here at length many, many times before. And how it was shameful for Trump to mention this when Netanyahu was in the White House as well. Now, I will agree with him on this point. Obviously, we know our views on Trump and what he has done in terms of siding with the Zionists and perpetuating, this genocide. We showed the videos here of Donald Trump's vision for Gaza 2.0, worshiping of money with a golden Trump statue in the middle. We showed that video. We chronicled that concept. And obviously, Trump's behavior is condemnable, but this gentleman had an opportunity. He's got massive amounts of eyes on him. Yes, this is a horrible crime. South Africa is a disgusting state, and we should not support it anyway. And yeah, of course, we have our Palestine issue over here, but no, he didn't do that. What he did was frame it. Oh, don't even pay attention to that. Palestine is, much worse. I mean, South Africa is the 5th most dangerous country in the world. I mean, we're talking about just a place you don't want to live in. We're going to get into some other things here. It is a model for the Zionist utopia. This is what the Zionists build. They don't create beauty. They build destruction, death, poverty, and misery, where they create a small clique, less than 1%, that own everything. And then the rest of the people are divided by race, divided by class. And then, of course, the scapegoat will always be who the Zionists will blame for their crimes, which oftentimes are people of European descent. South Africa's #1 in child rape. You hear, again, the hypocrisy from the left or these people on the right. They'll criticize Islam, saying that we are a religion of child rape. They will say all these, the Aisha arguments. We've heard them at length millions of times now. It's obviously not millions, but we know how many tens of thousands of times we've seen this argument. It used to be the only argument they had. And now all of a sudden they just turn a blind eye to basically a country that ranks #1 in the world in child rape. This is not a place that the Muslim community should be praising on any level, but yet we're seeing it happen. We are people of light. We are people of righteousness. We are people who are here to condemn all aspects of racism and tyranny, class warfare, racial warfare, and all of these things. We should be a light upon the nations. We have all these situations right now which are largely ignored by these social media influencers. We don't see hardly any talk about what's happening to the Uyghurs in China, all the oppression there. You never hear any of these Arab states or any of these Arab influencers talking about the Uyghurs. Occasionally you'll have one or two, but never. Chinese products are welcome, in the Gulf. This whole society is embraced. They love China, over there now. But what they're doing to their Islamic brothers and sisters doesn't seem to matter, at all. And again, condemning all these crimes, bringing light to it, and collectively we should respond to it. And again, it's like it doesn't, matter. Again, what you're a Muslim, you stand up for what is right. At the end of the day, these people could care less, about what is right. They're phonies, they're grifters, in a lot of cases, and they're not here for our best interest. And I just wanted to open up with that, just going through some stats, probably going back to what we covered last week, just to frame this a little bit, that what I'm saying is not an exaggeration. We have the data, we have the numbers, we have the statistics. There's no evading this. But yet you see this dishonest left-wing tactics being used by Arab influencers and Arab media to basically, this is not an issue. Don't even worry about it. South Africa, mashallah. Let's praise them. And we saw this really big about a year ago. And I said it was one of the reasons of many I disconnected myself from the local community here, because these conversations and people who are in that institute were supporting these type of things. And I just simply walked away. I just couldn't bear myself to have any dignity or respect and allow this to go on, because it was obviously racism against people who look like me. And that's not Islam in any shape or form. And I'm not afraid to offend. I'm not afraid to bring the truth to light. I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to kowtow and bow down, to these people like so many, unfortunately, of reverts do. They're conditioned almost from day one to bow down to this community and accept all the abuse, all the racism, all the discrimination, and the Arab supremacy that we talked about a few weeks ago with Aslam Hakim's comments. But you don't see anyone challenging these things. But we're proud to do it here. So I wanted to open up with that and then touch on another thing that we covered, then we'll open to questions. Last week, I was asked by a brother or sister about the incident with the aid for foreign students. And as always, I condemn the programs. We as Americans are not in the business of allowing our universities to be used by those other than us before we fill the seats with our own people. There are plenty of Americans who need those opportunities for higher education to build this country. They're going to invest in this country. They're going to spend their money here. Money's going to be in our communities as well. And another fact here, that $2 billion with a B of our taxpayer money went to fund the tuition of foreign students. Now imagine what we could do with that $2 billion. How many neighborhoods we could redo, how many public community centers could we build, how many positive things could we do for this society with that $2 billion annually. That's every year we could funnel that money back into our communities and grow them. But instead, this is being given to foreign students. For what purpose? I mean, obviously, this is foreign lobby money have gotten in there to our corrupt politicians as always. But again, when we condemn something here on this platform, there's always many, many reasons why. And if what we said last week doesn't shed light on that, I hope this does. That we are subsidizing people who don't live here, are not going to have any loyalty to us, who are going to come in here, obviously invest in their own community, not in ours. We're getting no benefit from this. We have our own children here who need to grow, need to go to Harvard, need to go to Yale, need to go to our state institutions, and are just simply being denied seats. And the tuition costs are skyrocketing on them. But yet our money going to pay for people who are not even American is beyond disgusting. And if you don't despise this government enough, this is just another of many facts that we cover here, which will increase that, to understand that we have a government that's simply the enemy of the people in more ways than one. So yes, sister, questions. I want to get those few issues talked about in the opening that I saw go on this past week, and responses to questions asked in the prior week.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So Musk Oval Office sent off stocks plummeted after Trump accused China of violating the Geneva deal. Trump and the pardon trial. Who is he pardoning, and what's the underlying motive?
I'm not getting the question.
So I guess they're saying Musk Oval Office sends off, I don't know, Trump means stocks plummet after Trump accused China of violating the Geneva deal.
In terms of the stocks, I am pretty familiar with that as a crypto investor myself. And those of you who are familiar with me, when I talked about this tactic, And this is another way that the wealthy always stay much more wealthier than us, is because they sell here. They know the event is coming. They have that inside information. Stocks start to plummet. And then like after a few more weeks, you're going to see this again. So I'm sure this is the exact same thing. I'm not familiar with the story exactly, but it's what they do all the time. And it's how these people generate just tremendous amounts of wealth, because the average person out there doesn't have this insider information. So you're going to see them. They know to sell here because they know the news is coming tomorrow, and then bang, it's going to fall. All these people are going to sell off quick, take losses. They have stop losses programmed into their trades. They're going to lose a ton of money. These guys already cashed in up here. They're waiting for that bottom. They know when the bottom is, and they're going to buy, and then it's going to go back up once the news changes. And we've seen this with this tariff stuff now for 3 months. They keep repeating the same thing. It's like you'll see he announces it, then, oh no, the stock, boom, and then he's going to pause it, and then the stocks go back up. And it just keeps on and on and on. Now, what were they mentioning? What about Elon Musk here? The stock thing, that's just a cycle. If you guys are investors, the best medicine always is to hold long term, because you can't play the day trade with these people. You're going to lose. You will win some day trades. There are some people out there who do. But the 1 or 2 trades that you get wiped on will almost always offset the gains that you made. Long-term investing is the only way for us as people without insider knowledge to be able to really make it in the system. So when I see that my stuff went down, I just said next. I just buy more, actually, because I know they're going to pump it back up here soon. So I just accumulate more when it's on these bottoms, and then it goes right back up again. So
I'm sorry, Brother Yusuf. I read another question. I had combined those. I'm sorry. So it says Trump and the pardon trial. Trial. Who is he pardoning, and what's the underlying motive?
I'm not familiar with that. He pardoned someone this week?
I think he pardoned in the Christies. Chris Christie or something. Mm-hmm. The Chrisleys.
Well, I'm not familiar with that. I have to research that and find out exactly what they did. I know who this gentleman is. He was very famous in Northern politics, supposedly a conservative. The pardon system is just an absolute joke. You can always look forward to some real gems in the end of a presidential term. You will see all the worst of financial criminals just getting pardoned after pardon by Biden. Trump does it. And again, like all Trump supporters who still have the sheet on their face, the wool over their eyes, whatever you want to call it. When Trump left the first time, they were all expecting like real serious pardons for people who did good. And they didn't receive any of that. What they got was a lot of Zionist, corrupt health insurance guys got pardoned. We saw with Joe Biden, he pardoned his son going back for a decade, so he can't be held accountable for his crimes. So I'd have to look up on what Chris Christie did. Sure, it's the same old financial crime shenanigans that these guys do. Yeah, I mean, those guys are total fraud. I mean, all of these guys, not Chris Christie. I could see the comment there. So I'm not familiar with the story. I'm just talking about pardons in general. All of them are corrupt at the end of the day, and they protect each other. They never face consequences for their actions. Remember Trump, when he ran the first time, lock her up. The second he got in, he said, oh, that was just campaign talk. We're really not going to do that. If Trump really cared about the United States, obviously they would have locked her up. Obviously, she's committed enough crimes to have been in jail many times over. Hillary Clinton I'm referring to. All of them have. But again, it's a way they protect themselves. They'll say it on the campaign trail. They'll give you that talking point. They'll give you that kind of fiery rhetoric. And then when push comes to shove, they're going to pardon them, or they're just not going to do anything at all. And that's why there's never been any justice brought in this system. I mean, you've literally seen them in the last few years. They admitted they killed a president of the United States in public, blamed it on a guy who had nothing to do with Kennedy here, obviously. Oh, yeah, we did it. They really killed him. Is there going to be anyone held accountable? No. And the American people just went back to sleep like instantly on this. So they just admitted they killed the president of the United States back in 1963 and got away with it and blamed it on someone who had nothing to do with it at all. And then they blacked out the document so no one could see who really was involved in it. And of course, no justice was ever brought there. And it's again, well, we can't trust and invest our emotions and our time in this system. It's good to keep track of what they're doing just so you can prepare for it morally, spiritually, financially. But at the end of the day, there's no voting your way out of this. It's not happening. Don't get caught up in the office Republican and right wing, stuff. It's all sham. Left wing, right wing, they're all on the same side at the end of the day. Next question.
The next question is: Supreme Court allows Trump to revoke temporary legal status of 500,000 immigrants from 4 countries: Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela and Cuba.
And I heard Ukraine is getting out of that too. This is long overdue. We are not the world's dumping ground, and we cannot be. You can't take care of everybody. Because what this has fed is that anyone can just say, my country's not good. I need asylum. And I heard that Trump is actually going to be putting $1,000 application fee, which is a good thing, should be more. So if you want to try to lie and make up stuff, which the vast majority of these asylum applications have been rejected. These people are not fleeing war. This is a big, big lie that has been used, that's been exposed on this channel many times by myself. You have people now saying they're gay so they can escape homosexual persecution when none of them men are obviously gay. We've seen people from Egypt like claiming asylum in Europe and getting it. What war are they fleeing in Egypt? What wars are they fleeing in North Africa? Only if you were from Palestine or you were from the old Afghanistan era or Iraq were you ever entitled to this. And again, asylum has historically always been women and children, first. But yet when you look at these lines that they show, it's 99% men. I mean, for one, I've talked about this before. What kind of man is this that he leaves his wife and kids behind? What kind of man does that? This is a coward. This is not a Muslim man by any means, not an honorable man. It's a disgrace to a man by any means to do this, to go over here and get free money or work on the underground black market or whatever. So the more of these protective statuses are revoked, the better. We're paying for all this. Again, we can't even pay our rent and our electrical bills. Mine's just gone up 25%, just lovely news. Seems like every time I get a salary increase, they just start raising everything up, and it just really offsets the increase. You're just keeping up with the standard of living you were previously, and that ends when you don't get raises or get new jobs anymore. I mean, we can't keep paying for this. I mean, we see them all around my town here. Most of them are not working. They're getting food stamps with 4 or 5 kids, if the family did come. Some cases, it's just the men. As I mentioned, a lot of cases, it's just the men. But yeah, they're not contributing really anything to our society. They bring division, tribalism, all kinds of these conflicts with them. You're seeing this in Canada. You're seeing this all over Europe. Now you're seeing it in Japan, as well. I mean, we don't owe the world anything. So in places like Venezuela, Nicaragua, I mean, they've always been unstable down in Latin America. And are we going to take the whole continent? I mean, is the whole continent entitled to live in the United States? I mean, absolutely not. And as I've talked about here before, we as Muslims, we have nowhere we can go as American Muslims. If you're an American Muslim or a Muslim who's natural indigenous to England, referring to that of people who were born in England who've had generations there, like your Caribbeans and your native Brits. I mean, if you're a Muslim of those groups, you're not going anywhere. No Muslim country is going to allow you to live there. And if you're living there, you're going to live there as a second-class citizen. We don't have another home. We have to value this one. We have to do the best we can to improve our conditions here. We can't be looking out with our tax dollars for the rest of the world. There's no one looking out for us. We try to make hijrah at any Muslim nation. Good luck. And if you got in, good luck in being treated like an equal, or even resembling an equal in those Arab-controlled countries in particular. So we have to love our land. We have to look out for everything that's good for us, here in the West as Americans. And these programs have just been very detrimental to us in every way. We should not be paying for this.
For clarifications, it's not the Chris Christies. It's a reality show called the Chris Christies.
So what was with the reality show? The tie-in to that?
Just the Christies.
So they have a reality show now. Is that what you're saying?
So it's not Chris Christie. It's a family called the Christies, and they are a reality show. So it wasn't Chris Christie who was being pardoned. It was the reality show Christies.
And what did they do exactly?
For fraud. It was for fraud.
Oh, okay.
Something to do with taxes or something like that.
Interesting. That's one of the most common, as I talk about financial crimes, obviously, are getting pardoned left and right. Tax evasion. Of course, me or you, we tax evade. We're not getting such treatment, obviously. They're going to throw the book at us. But when it comes to these type of people, they get away with it all the time. And then when they actually do get caught, here comes the hero from the clouds in to save them. They protect each other, you know. But you or I try that, like what the Zionists do with their paper money. They create money out of thin air. They call it fractional reserve lending. You or I try to go counterfeit money, we're going to end up being thrown in jail.
So that opens the question, what about P. Diddy? You think he will be pardoned?
There's a couple scenarios with him, and it depends on what his relationship is behind the scenes with these powerful people. One of the common things that they'll do, we saw this with Jeffrey Epstein. We saw they got him out of prison. And there's no doubt in my mind that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. They had the suicide. There was no cameras. The cameras conveniently shut off during that period of time. We saw, like, of course, they never had an open casket viewing of his body. 100% they went in there and they got him out of there. There's no doubt. I'd bet my life on that. How sure I am if that's exactly what they did. So in these cases, you've seen the same thing. With P. Diddy, they could go with that route. Depends on how many of them he knows, how much dirt he has on them. They don't want this guy to sing like a canary. They don't want that. So whatever's going to happen has probably already been arranged, and the trial will be theater. He will get acquitted, or you'll have some type of suicide, situation. Where they could get him out that way, or they could just take him out for real if they do believe he is going to tell on some people in power. It's going to be very interesting to see how they go with that. And it all, again, it hinges on what his connection is and how high does it go. If it's just Hollywood entertainers, they're probably not going to worry too much. But if it starts linking up to some of the real big players, the real movers and shakers, like Epstein did, you're going to start seeing, a lot more. And when a lot of these celebrities, we saw this with Martha Stewart years ago. I mean, when they're put in prison, it's like their prisons are better than the houses that most of us live in. So, I mean, when Martha Stewart did her time, I mean, it wasn't anything I would like to call jail, It was just she was in a holding house, had nice things and all those stuff. So it'll be interesting to see, to say the least, what they're going to do, with him. But as of now, can't put a finger on it. We haven't seen their hands yet.
Okay, Brother Yusuf, on my end, from Zoom, I don't have any more questions, but let me check somewhere else. If
they don't, I can have some other things to talk about here too, if they don't have anything else.
Yes, thank you.
So let me know if you didn't find anything else, and then I'll proceed.
No, I have not.
Okay, so I want to talk about, there's a huge thing that started in Muslim social media a week and a half ago. Daniel Hakikachu had released a 3-hour and about 45 to 50-minute documentary known as Wahhabism. And this is an area that is very critical to us, particularly in the West. And I wanted to do, in fact, Brother Daniel beat me to this. I wanted to do this back in 2017. I had a lot of material. I just didn't have a platform at the time. I was thinking about writing a book, but I wanted to really kind of do it orally. But I don't think the world was ready for it back then. But I think now Allah, as we always talk about here, Allah is in control. And now was the time to have such information being out. Because throughout my Palestine series, we always harken back to the current condition of the Ummah. And Allah basically using all these things as a way to restore us. All this negativity in the world, the direction of the world and all these things, was Allah getting us ready to be stronger, to be better than we've ever been before. And with Palestine, it was kind of shady in the beginning. What exactly was Allah's plan? We really couldn't tell. And we still, obviously, only Allah knows best. But we can start to speculate and start to see some things that have come across from this. And one of the things that's really been illuminated, you've really had the spotlight on, is basically what's going on in the Gulf states, and the level of treachery, the fact that the Ummah has been basically colonized and conquered because of their response or lack thereof to Palestinian people and what is going on there. We fully, as Muslims, see there is zero unity. This nationalism has been a total disaster. We have no support. The Prophet ﷺ, he would send an army when just 2 missionaries were killed by a tribe they were giving dawah to. 2 missionaries. And the Prophet ﷺ would immediately launch an assault on that said tribe who was guilty of those offenses. Now we can see 50 to 100,000 people being killed. I don't know the exact numbers now. I know it's over 50, obviously. I'll put a little frame there. And we see absolutely nothing being done. When we talked about Palestine, I talked about the Ottoman Empire and the fall of the Ottoman Empire. That was one of the goals of World War I. They needed to get rid of the Khalifa. They needed to break it down. How did they do that? They used this Wahhabi Saudi state to accomplish that. And Brother Daniel's documentary, he focuses a lot on the religious issues. Mine was going to focus more on the political aspects of this. But it's very important for people to watch because these people for so long have hijacked the libraries, the Islamic centers. They've hijacked the entire discourse. When you look at the more popular social media influencers, until recent times, where we're starting to see the compassionate feminist imams and the LGBTQ friendly imams, but before that, it was generally these type of people were ruling the ummah. Billions of dollars being funneled in to teach this type of version, of Islam. And long story short, one of their main tenets is takfiring every single Muslim for literally any minor thing. When obviously, if you're familiar with any Islamic rulings on this matter, takfir is something that is very serious. It's not something you take lightly. You have to go through a process. People are different. Some people engage in a behavior without even realizing what they're doing is wrong. Those people are not taken out of the fold of Islam. They've never historically been taken out of the fold of Islam. They were given guidance. They were given counseling when they were erring. But you see with this particular group, you look at them in social media, they takfir each other, all the time. All the while they're doing this, they are only attacking other Muslims. They sit there and they praise nations, which this past week, Saudi Arabian police, thank God they did something good. There was a homosexual gentleman there. Oh, what was the question there? I see one part of it coming through. But there was a homosexual gentleman in Saudi, and he was promoting feminist clothes for men. And the government was going to allow this, apparently. And then the police ended up finding him for indecency and took him out. But again, had this gone on unabated, you would have had these same people who are takfiring their brothers left and right for the most minor of things, praising this government for all these anti-Islamic practices. Now, praying to dead saints and praying to graves and all these things, obviously this is something concerning. But I've never met a Muslim in my life who engaged in these activities outside of Shia. I've never met a Muslim who is Sunni who is engaging with the things they spend 99% of their time doing. But I have met Muslims where they've had problems with their daughter taking off the hijab and trying to engage in dating and all these things. I've met Muslims who've had liberalism and alcohol abuse. I've met people who are having issues like this that are urgent matters that need to be addressed. But yet these people only focus on attacking their brothers and sisters for the most trivial and minor of things, while again defending and propping up these regimes and calling you all sorts of names and other indecent things for just simply saying these are not Islamically run societies anymore. And it's unfortunate. And Brother Daniel, he really brought it to light with this documentary. And it just caused a huge storm, over the internet. It's going to get bigger and bigger. The more and more we're putting light on these people and what they are and what they represent and how hazardous they have been to the Ummah. Again, you talk about these countries we mentioned earlier with Hijra. Good luck. These countries are filled with racism. These countries are filled with the way they treat foreign Muslims with indignities. All the while, they will welcome in people from openly atheistic or Kafir societies and treat them like kings and queens. They have no issue. And you saw this recently with ISIS. They accidentally attacked Israel, according to them. They apologized for it. What has ISIS done? ISIS has only attacked Christians and Muslims. Has ISIS ever attacked the Zionists? And when they do, they bow down and apologize. We're sorry, it was a mistake. You can look up that headline. It's out this week. Again, why? I mean, we know in the end of the day, you put 2 and 2 together. Just use basic problem-solving skills. We know exactly why, ISIS is doing this. We know exactly what the purpose is for this. But yet, again, these social media influencers have been given a pass and a free rein for far too long. And it's good to see them exposed. I will do a more detailed discussion on this, going further when I have time to really compare a lot of quotes and notes. And we're going to look at the origins of this movement. We are going to look at the massacres that they were responsible for, how Mr. Wahab ibn Abdul Wahab had basically takfired the entire Muslim world as the justification to spread the Saudi state. We are going to look at the relationship between the Saudi state and the Zionist-controlled West. And you're going to see it's hand in hand. Their agenda has been completely synchronized, and it still is to this day. And God bless Brother Daniel. I don't agree with him on everything, but he put his homework in. He did his due diligence to get this information out for the greater good. And Palestine has really illuminated this and let everybody know what exactly is going on, who our friends are, and who our enemies, unfortunately are as well. Just wanted to add that in there as well. I saw some questions. Miss Geechee, Sister Geechee, had said something. If you could please say that out loud.
Yes. Brother Yusuf, when will we resume the series, The Zionist Movements and Origins, here in the U.S. and around the world?
Oh, definitely. That's on the radar. That will be coming. I just have transitioned to a new job. I have to build a system from scratch. So I haven't been a chance to get the books out and get the quotes. But we are definitely going to cover the Zionist takeover of the United States and Western Europe. We're going to build up from the 1700s all the way up to the present time. We are going to look at how they got the financial systems, the manipulation of the world wars, and all those things. They all tie in together because this Wahhabist movement in Saudi coincides with that. Because while they're doing this to the West, they're breaking up the moral fabric of the West. They're destroying the family. They're introducing, if you go look at Nazi Germany, they show us in school the book burnings and all these things and this and this and that. But you look what books they were burning. They were burning books on transgenderism. They were burning books on homosexuality. The Zionists were doing these exact same things in Germany before the rise of Hitler. And we see the Zionists doing the exact same things now in the West. We look at how they fractioned the Ummah into several different states and how they broke up our unity. We don't militarily mobilize to help each other at all. We're powerless, and they tell us to honor the leaders and worship the leaders while our brothers and sisters are being killed to the tune of 10 to 50,000, so 100,000. It's just insane. And this has all happened within the last 100 years. And this Wahhabi movement, the Zionists here in the West, they're all, like I said, totally in lockstep, completely synchronized with themselves. And you see any of these social media influencers promoting this stuff, you know what the agenda is. We're here for solutions. We're not here to criticize. All the criticisms I've ever leveled on people who share our faith, I've never takfired them. I'm not qualified to do that, for number one. And it's not ethical in the eyes of Allah for me to do that. I've brought the quotes from the Messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I may said they were doing things that were bad. They were doing things that are misguided. I've said sometimes they show racial tendencies, racist tendencies, but that doesn't take them out of Islam. That just means they've got some stuff in their heart they need to clean out. But these people are out there just takfiring, everyone as an ultimate weapon to invade, discredit, or conquer. And It's got to stop. And Brother Daniel's documentary, Palestine, as I said, all these things I've alluded to are all, connected. Allah is waking people up in the natural way over time. It took a long time to get in this mess. It's going to take a long time to get it out. One person at a time, one revelation, one thing unveiling before our eyes. And people are going to start knowing what the real deal is. And they're going to turn on these people. And I'm already seeing it, mashallah. When these guys post their comments criticizing this documentary, you look at the ratios in those comments, it's overwhelmingly against them. And it really may put a smile to my face, because when I first started saying this stuff back in 2015, 2017, the ratio was the opposite. People were calling me names. And now we're seeing just a huge outcry and a rebellion, a healthy rebellion against this doctrine and against what those states stand for. Now, there was another question a sister asked. I can't read the questions on the screen. They only show the first 4 words.
Okay, let me check. I think that's it. Unless, did you see the double tariffs on steel imports? 50% Trump says. We have said that, right?
Yes, yeah, we said the tariffs, yes. Mm-hmm.
And Trump pardon the trials. We have seen that, right? So I think this is the last question. And here's a comment. I do agree most of the part, but we need to remember we should focus on our Aqidah.
Well, obviously, you have to worry about your own religious practices. But one of the things that these people do is they like to give you an Aqidah test as a way of disqualifying you. And again, focusing on all these tertiary issues, here on the side, instead of focusing on the things that are going on. We got Muslims right now that don't pray. We got Muslims right now that don't fast. We got Muslims right now where the daughters are committing adultery and going to beaches and walking around with their entire bodies exposed. We got brothers right now engaged in drug use and gang material. We've got so many more concerning issues than what these influencers are tending to focus on. They're focusing a lot of times on advanced scholarly level discussions and scholarly level topics. Well, as I mentioned before, I've never met a Muslim in my life. I've met quite a few that's engaging in all these practices that they're talking about. I just haven't seen it. Not saying they don't exist, they obviously do, but I'm not seeing this. But what I am seeing is these moral decay issues that I'm talking about that we need to be focusing on. It's like, this is what we need to, is what's going on in our communities and our families with our children and what they're being subjected to, how they're going on these deviant paths, And these guys are just, again, spending all their time attacking Muslims on these side issues that only scholars discussed previously, and ignoring these just massive, issues that are coming. Feminism is sweeping the gulf. I mean, you're seeing the marriages and the families disintegrating. Divorces are through the roof. They need to be focusing on that. Let's get the basics. We don't even have the basics anymore. Just the basics of Islam, just Allah's commands, are not even being adhered to. I mean, I lived in that part of the world. And even back then, I was seeing the decay and the degeneracy that was going on in Muslim lands. I mean, these are the things we really need to be spending our time on. But this is what social media, what they're doing. And it's not positive in any ways. But as he said, we have to focus on building ourselves, obviously, before we can build anyone else. But we can work on ourselves and our immediate family and friends around us. And these people, again, are engaging in takfiring Muslims online for disagreeing with them on advanced scholarly issues.
Thank you so much.